Earlier, I caught up with TMZ's executive producer, Charles Latibeaudiere. Here's our conversation about the case.
I'm always curious when it comes to a vigil for someone who is a victim of a violent end. And for all we know, I don't know how Celeste died, but she was certainly treated horrendously in death. I always wonder if the killers show up at the vigils. Did you see or do you know of any evidence of police who were at that vigil, or maybe even undercover officers just watching to see who showed up?
There were police officers there, but as far as a presence that made you think they were watching, there wasn't anything obvious that I saw in the video. But they could have been there, and we know that that is an MO, that's not just something you see in movies and stuff. Like, it really does happen. So
Scott Peterson.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, the police detectives, I'm sure, I would think, are aware of that, and that maybe they did have people there. I mean, that's a really good point, Ashleigh, and maybe they did. But again, there's been not only no arrest, there's no named person of interest and no named suspect, which doesn't mean the police don't have a suspect.
Right.
Just means they're
Close
not
to the vest.
Yeah, they're just not willing to share it with us yet.
I'm looking at other things, and so are people online, and I know TMZ is as well. His posts are really starting to stand out. Like, he reposted someone who was cutting up meat and said, quote, "Me if I see her talk with other dudes." Now, he didn't write that, but he reposted it from someone else, and it clearly shows he would either cut up the person the girl was talking to, or he'd cut up the girl. That was sent before, obviously, Celeste was found murdered. But then there's another one of him washing his sneakers that she'd been photographed in. These are all, again, by themselves, not much. Together, they're forming a picture.
Yeah, you know, we're talking today about the lyrics, and you know, we've talked about romantic homicide, and those images that you're just talking about, all sort of paint an image of an artist, right? Like, clearly, the best case scenario, you could look at that and say, this is just an image, a very macabre image he wanted to have out there for himself as an artist. But in light of what has happened now, it's impossible to not look at those things through a different lens. Now, that's maybe unfair to him as far as legally speaking, because again, he's not a suspect. But when his car, at the very least, we can say his car is connected to this crime. And now you start looking at all these things. It's hard not to look at it and go, what's going on there?
You know, uncomfortable. I mean, not only that,
very uncomfortable.
Charles, you know, he is apparently, you know, he'd been selling these blood-spattered T-shirts.
Blood-splattered shirts, yeah.
Yeah, a casket on the stage, part of the act. Then there's music video with a body being put into a trunk. Again, none of it would stand up in a court of law, but looking at all of these things together, it does give you a picture of somebody whose mind works a little differently.
It definitely works a little differently, but you know, on the other hand, you would say, I'm sure his attorney would say to you, that's his art, right? And you can't prosecute someone or arrest someone based on their art.
It's true. He hasn't been accused of anything. He hasn't been named as a person of interest in this particular case. It just happens to be that it's his car where the body was found, and it's his home that they raided, and that tells us a lot. Like, even when Diddy was in limbo, we talked about the fact that they'd raided 2 of Diddy's homes. I think an arrest might be imminent, and what do you know? I do want to ask you, though, about the sales of his records and the streams. None of this has affected him in a bad way.
No, I mean, as far as his music career goes, it sounds really weird and macabre to say, but it's helped. It has helped put David on the radar screen of listeners around the country. His album just re-entered the Billboard 200, which is the album charts, and that would not have happened without all of this attention and people, you know, listening to, like, oh, who is David? You know, and actually, we do a lot of talkbacks with our affiliates around the country here, and I've had the question asked several times. People going like, I didn't know about this, didn't know about his music, and I've been listening to it now, and that's exactly what's happening. His streams, his song "Romantic Homicide" had its biggest week ever streaming on Spotify last week. So people are listening. They are checking out his music.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.